Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm glad you are here. Today I'm going to be sharing about scaffolding and pacing, which is one of the most important findings I have in my research after interviewing 27 facilitators that are working with psychedelics to understand what it is that we might know so that we can better work with these substances. Now, scaffolding and pacing. um, what this means is, in the words of facilitators, that too many people are going too soon, too much, and too fast into these spaces of working with psychedelics, and that there is a lot of damage that can be done when people are not careful and when they're not really listening and paying attention to what's going on in their systems in order to kind of work with where they're at instead of jumping ahead, right? Instead of taking a graduate level of a psychedelic, maybe starting with first or second or third grade, so that you can start to really understand what is required before going into a very deep or big journey. So if we are thinking about transformation in general, it is not something that can just happen overnight. You can be pushed into something preemptively, and that can be very disorienting. That can be difficult for yourself and the people around you. And instead of doing it that way, instead of going big or going home, that kind of attitude, being patient, being careful, being discerning, being respectful of your system and where you're at. So there's a scaffolding that goes on, right? In human development, before we can run, we have to learn how to walk. And before we can walk, we have to learn how to crawl. And these are the steps that are consecutive. They build on each other, right? When we're talking about transformation, there is a lot that we must build on. And some of those principles are very in line with human development principles. We need community around us. We need some strong support. Maybe we need a better personal practice so that we can sit through difficult things. Maybe we need more education that will allow for us to understand what we're getting into so that we can make more informed choices. There might be parts within you that when you are taking a psychedelic substance, they're super resistant. And if you go too soon, too fast, too much, those parts might come up with a vengeance, and that might result in your system having resistance. And it's in that resistance that can cause so many bad trips. And so an alternative to doing that is to work with your parts ahead of time, going slow, listening to your system. How are we feeling about this? And when your system is like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can do a little more. I can do a little more. Then you start to actually build cohesion in yourself, more of a cooperative environment for these plant medicines and substances to be able to do some powerful work. And so this kind of scaffolding and this kind of slow pacing can really allow for someone to get the most out of their journey. And that is best case scenario, right? The worst case scenario is that someone doesn't do this work and they put themselves at immense risk. And what this can look like is someone taking that really high dose and going into psychosis and going into complete chaos in their life because what they experienced was too much for their system to be able to hold in that moment. If you are a facilitator, instead of pushing them to their very limit, maybe starting slow, maybe figuring out a way to have titration involved, where you start with a dose and then just slowly work up until they find a sweet spot. So in sum, I love this line: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So if we can focus on going slow, we can smooth out this process and more effectively experience transformation in a sustained way. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.